Hey folks, I'm Chris and I'm your Commander Mechanic. Here on the channel we do deck techs, tune-ups, deck building advice, and podcasts with cool people. Before we get started, I wanted to remind you that if you want to pick up any of the cards mentioned today, you can head over to our affiliates. Our Canadian affiliate, Hairy Tarantula, where you can use the promo code CMDR Space Mechanic at checkout, or our international affiliate at TCG Player. Links to both are in the description. And if you like what we do, you can subscribe or help support the channel on Patreon, where you can get one-on-one advice with me, along with exclusive content on a monthly basis. This week, we're continuing some Strixhaven brew-ups, a mix of deck building and deck concept tune-ups. And we're working with the new mythic modal double-faced card Extus, Oriq Overlord, with Awaken the Blood Avatar on the flip side. Let's take a look at each of these. First, Extus, who can be our commander as the front side of this MDFC is a creature. Extus is a 4-mana black and white human warlock. This 2/4 with double strike also has Magecraft, allowing you to return creatures from your graveyard to your hand whenever you cast or copy a spell. Being a 2/4 double striker is no joke, and it allows this creature to take the offense or defense and allows you to regrow resources from the yard, meaning we have some strong long-term capabilities. And the back half of our commander is a sorcery, Awaken the Blood Avatar. Buckle up because this one's a doozy. With a mana value of 8, this sorcery lets us sacrifice creatures to reduce its cost by 2 for each sacrificed creature, not unlike a Dargo Shipbreaker or Torgar Famine Incarnate. On cast, this makes each opponent sacrifice a creature, and we create a 3/6 avatar token with haste, and when it attacks, it deals 3 damage to each opponent. Wow, what a mouthful. These two sides give us a Mardu, red, white, and black color identity, and allow us quite a few aspects to play with. In particular, the big question I've been asked, both here on YouTube and on Twitter, is how many times do we need to cast Awaken the Blood Avatar in a single turn to win the game? And that is an interesting question. Let's look at some math, then let's build a deck that helps us achieve this goal. Well, we want to start with a goal. We start with 40 life, so how many of these avatar tokens do we need to 40 to 0 someone? Well, 14 technically. That way, on attack, we deal 42 damage to each opponent and don't even need to worry about dealing combat damage at all. However, if we build in such a way that sacrificing creatures and casting spells brings life totals lower, and the edict effect on Awaken the Blood Avatar can clear the way for combat damage to be a factor as well. So let's say we need 3 per opponent for a total of 9 tokens. That deals 27 damage on attack and 9 combat damage to each opponent, assuming a clear board, for a total of 37 damage. Now we can reduce that number further with a number of key cards. Aristocrat effects that will further drain opponents as we sacrifice creatures to pay the growing costs for our sorcery, and Anointed Procession, which doubles our value out of each cast, making twice as many tokens, reducing the number of times we need to cast in half. So with our ideal situation being Anointed Procession in play, let's shoot to make it an even 8 to 10 tokens. 8 if we have some kind of drain on death effects, and 10 if we don't. So the magic number is casting 4 to 5 times in a single turn to come out of nowhere and end all of our opponents at once. Our next question is, how many creatures do we need to sacrifice to make this happen? And how do we make that many creatures? If we want to cast Awaken the Blood Avatar from the command zone each time, we'll need to sacrifice 3 plus X creatures, where X is the number of times we've cast it from the command zone. The first time it's going to be 3 creatures and paying red and black. The second time it's 4 creatures and paying red and black. The third time 5 creatures and paying red and black. The fourth time 6 creatures and paying red and black. And the fifth time 7 creatures and paying red and black. So if we're casting it 4 times, we need a total of 18 creatures to sacrifice. And if we're casting it 5 times, a staggering 25 creatures needed. And never forget, we need to pay the red-black casting cost each time too, for a total of 8 to 10 mana. Red, 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 and black, 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 black. From a deck building perspective, we need to now ask, how can we generate these resources in the most efficient way possible? What is a minimum scenario, and what is our best case scenario? In each, we need Anointed Procession. So finding it will be our top priority. We'll need to include sufficient tutors to find it. Fortunately, white has Enlightened Tutor and Idyllic Tutor, and black has no shortage of tutor effects for us. We can, in essence, have 6+ copies of Anointed Procession in our decks. Next, we'll need to solve for mana. In addition to what we'll have in play, which we'll need to generate each of our colors at best and a minimum of 2 colors, we can look at generating more mana on cast. 2 cards can help here. Pitiless Plunderer and the new Stormkiln Artisan. Plunderer makes us treasures whenever a creature we control dies, 2 with Procession out, and Stormkiln will make us 1 to 2 treasures whenever we cast Awaken the Blood Avatar. We can juice this a bit further by adding enablers like Black Market, which will get charge counters throughout the game and potentially generate further mana for us. Other good ramp outlets like Dockside Extortionist can generate a lot of treasure tokens to be doubled by Procession, and is a body that can be sacrificed to pay the cost for Awaken the Blood Avatar. This leaves our final cost to be considered the massive number of bodies we'd need. How do we generate that many creatures? Since we're factoring in Anointed Procession, our most efficient route will be tokens. And here we'll have a few enablers. Traditional token generating spells that we can cast on our opponent's turns, like Secure the Wastes, Rise of the Dreadmarn, and the new Ink Shield, all letting us untap with enough ammo to go off. And creatures that make more creatures when they die or enter the battlefield, like Doomed Traveler, Ministrant of Obligation, or Mog War Marshal, they can give us the bodies we need to keep going, especially as their tokens would be doubled with an Anointed Procession out. And cards that make tokens on cast, like the new Sedgemoor Witch out of Strixhaven, can make us 1 to 2 tokens with Magecraft. Young Pyromancer makes us elementals on spellcast, and Monastery Mentor as redundancy, who makes us creature tokens when casting non-creature spells. We could also be helped by enchantments that make us tokens. Bitter Blossom or Outlaw's Merriment, for example. They all generate advantage turn over turn that we can get additional value from later, and use as fodder to recast Awaken the Blood Avatar. Whew. Now, that's all needed if we want to do things the hard way, where we pay all of our costs and need all of our resources. How do we grease the wheels? How do we make it easier? Well, here's where red really shines. You might notice that a lot of the cards mentioned previously play into black and white's more traditional aristocrat lines, so what part does red play in this? Easy. Copying spells. We don't need to pay 2 mana and sacrifice 3 or more creatures when we can drop a Dualcaster Mage and get us another spin, netting us another body to then sacrifice in recasting the spell. A Reverberate or Increasing Vengeance takes the cost of casting another Awaken the Blood Avatar from red, black, and 3+ creatures to sacrifice down to just 2 red mana. Mana that we could easily be recovering via some of our treasure token generators. So if we want to cast Awaken the Blood Avatar 5 times, we may be able to drop the costs of the 5th copy from 7 creatures plus a red and black mana down to just double red. That is a massive resource savings. Essentially, for each copy spell we can replace the creature sacrifice costs with mana costs, which makes a card like Reiterate, recently reprinted in Time Spiral Remastered, a great include. This turns sacrificing a greater volume of creatures into a simple mana cost. For instance, 9 additional mana for 2 extra copies of the spell. If we have the capability to pay those mana costs thanks to our token generators, it is a much more valid route to take. So let's look at our best case scenario, where we only need to cast Awaken the Blood Avatar 4 times, as we have Anointed Procession in play, and each of our opponents have lost some combination of life across the first 5 to 6 turns of the game. In this scenario, we've used token and treasure generators to create 6 creatures and 8 mana, and we also have a Reverberate in hand. In casting or copying the spell, we have each opponent sacrifice creatures, creating 8 3/6s, and the moment we swing with them, each opponent loses 24 life. Then, either combat damage finishes them off, or we survive a turn to swing with our tokens again. In our worst case scenario, we need to have the parts in play on the fly to generate our resources. We'll factor in Anointed Procession since it's our linchpin. If we have Young Pyromancer and Sedgemoor Witch in play, along with Pitiless Plunderer, as long as we can cast Awaken the Blood Avatar once, we'll be creating 4 creature tokens and 6 treasure tokens. That's enough to cast Awaken the Blood Avatar one more time with our existing resources, making us another 4 creature tokens and now 8 treasure tokens. That leaves us up 12 treasure tokens, meaning we can cast Awaken the Blood Avatar again with just mana. But if we sacrifice those 4 creature tokens, use some treasure tokens, and the remaining treasures can cast a Fury Storm. Whew, we are golden. Even needing to cast it the hard way, paying all of the resources, we have the power. And then we can overwhelm our opponents with an army of blood avatars. Now, here is our list. It's definitely not an inexpensive deck since we need lands that produce all of our colors, tutors to grab our key pieces, and various pricey cards to help facilitate it all. Our alternate paths to victory here are going to be through traditional aristocrat lines, death triggers from sacrificing our tokens, slowly whittling our opponents down, or via one of my favorite cards, Revel in Riches. With Anointed Procession, we may not even need to win by casting Awaken the Blood Avatar, but just by sitting back and hope we make it to our upkeep with a few treasures in play. There is also a cheeky little Twin Flame Dual Caster Mage combo in the list that nets you infinite hasty dual casters, much like the Splinter Twin combo. So if your primary game plan is ruined and your secondary game plan becomes unviable, well, you always have another line to win. But in the end, we're going to do one thing and we are going to do it well. And that is cast Awaken the Blood Avatar as many times as we can. You can find a full deck list in the description below. Be sure to like this video if you learned something cool today. Let me know in the comments what you think of this build and what you would add to the deck as well. As always, folks, until next time, good luck and have fun. As always, a special thanks to all of our patrons, without whom this would not be possible. A big shout out goes to our Lodestone Golems, Ben Frayne, Sterling Lankford, Will Briggs, Ben Davis, David Neri, Corey Whitaker, and Snipes. And especially our premium patrons are Metalwork Colossi, Austin Charlotte, Charles Olson, Matthew Chandler, Ben Shackelford, Pulsating Kiwi, Jim, Raphael Lum, Wyatt M, and Timothy Conan. Thank you, all of you. You make this possible.